Hello, everybody. My name is Mikkel. I'm from Denmark, and I'm here because I've been sent off to a desert island, and unfortunately, I haven't been told how many records I could bring. So do want to bring all my Tom Waits albums, but in case I can only have 21, 20, 15, 6, 2, and so forth of his albums, I'm here to try to decide which ones to take out of the luggage first. Okay. I'm doing this because a couple of years ago I wrote this book called Tom Waits and Me, where and I think it's the only book in the world, I actually go through every of his regular albums and every song, and I do not rank the albums in the book, but I do assess them, and I recommend 4 to 6 tracks from each album that you have to hear. At the same time, I kind of write about how and where I was myself when I was familiar with this and that album. So, unfortunately, the book is only out in Danish. So, if you have a publishing house somewhere or you are a literary agent, don't hesitate to contact me. But okay, let's get on with it. I can only have 21 albums with me on this trip, I've been told, for now. So, let's start with the first one I will take out. And I would just say right away that I might alienate a lot of you to begin with, but I hope I will be able to explain why. And okay, first one up. Tom Waits' debut album, Closing Time from 1973. It's a great album, as you all know, kind of folksy singer-songwriter, and some of Tom's best, known songs and most covered songs like Martha, and I hope that I don't fall in love with you. But to me, it's not really my Tom Waits. He wouldn't come along for an album or so, but it's unrecognizably Tom, but it's just the album that I hear the least. I'm sorry. Okay, glad I got that out of the way. So if I have to take one more album out of the luggage, it would have to be Tom's soundtrack for the Jim Jarmusch film Night on Earth from 1991. It's more my Tom Waits on this album, but as it is a soundtrack, to be fair, it's actually only 2 or 3 musical themes which are rearranged in different forms, and I love a lot of it. But just for the limited amount of music, it's gonna be this next one. The next one could also be controversial for some diehard Tom Waits fans, but it's kind of the same as with the first one. Nighthawks at the Diner, 1975, his live album. Well, live in that sense, it's recorded in front of an audience, but not as a concert. It may just be lacking a few really good songs, even though one of my favorites, Nobody, is on there, and there is some great musicianship on it, especially on, for instance, Spare Parts Part 1. This may be more the performer Tom Waits album than the musician and songwriter, so that's why it's here this early. I'm so sorry, and I can say I'm sorry every time I pick up one, but you know how it is. Blood Money from 2002, which is the Tom's own version of the music from Wojciech, the theater piece that he did with Robert Wilson, for instance, and he did it here in Copenhagen. They had the world premiere here in Copenhagen. I attended it, and when this album came out, I was just a little tiny bit disappointed, mainly because the cast of the theater performance was so great. So to begin with, I didn't feel that Tom really improved the songs, which is of course really wrong of me to say. But also there were just a little bit too many songs with the same mood. Some of them are also a little bit too long. But the worst thing about having this so early is one of my all-time favorites, All the World is Green, with the greatest clarinet solo ever heard by Colin Stetson, is on here. So it's it's tough, but sorry. The next one I have to take out of my luggage, I've been told, is Real Gone. We are in 2004 now. When I heard this, when I got it, when I bought it, when it came out, I was kind of disappointed in a way that I thought, and I was wrong at the time, that Tom was trying to adapt to, to the time, to the music style at the time, and which is one of the things I've always loved about Tom, that he's not listening to anybody else. I mean, he's not following trends and fads and so on. And I thought that this was, kind of, and he has been known to say that he was very influenced by his sons and or his children, and I listened to a lot of hip hop records. But I was wrong, and I feel better about it now, especially when this remastered vinyl came out. Has a softer tone to it. There are more details, especially in a song like "Hoist That Rag," and but again, as in the previous ones, there's just some of the songs are just too long, and it's not, which is might be apparent, not one of the albums that I hear the most. Actually, all the albums I have here is, I think I've been monitored. Somebody did some surveillance that I guess the ranking I'm doing now also follows what they found out, how often I hear a certain album. I don't know. Everybody's watching me, I suppose, and you. Next one up is also something which Bone Machine from 1992. When it came out, the good thing about this album is when it came out, everybody who was sort of thinking, hey, I like Tom Waits, was almost becoming a household name, especially in Denmark, because also The Black Rider, the musical, had its premiere here or was set up here. But when this album came out, everybody went screaming away again, especially the first track, Earth Died Screaming. And there was a lot of great songs, Black Wings and Whistle Down the Wind. But again, it struck me as a little bit too, like there was too much Tom Waits on it. If you get my, it's like automated Tom Waits. I know it's really unfair, but again, this ranking is where my heart is, I guess. So you can argue and you can headbutt, but you know what it's like. Next one up, if I can only bring 16 albums to the or 15 albums to the desert island, I will have to get rid of this as well. Foreign Affair from 1997. I think I have it further up on my list, or further down, or further up than most people have, because some people think it's a little unnecessary. I think especially for me, the track like Potter's Field, it gets too theatrical and too Hollywoody in a wrong way, after my taste. But then again, there are so many things on this album I love. And now, of course, the Bette Midler duet is something else, and just the final bars of Burma Shave where this trumpet comes on is just hauntingly beautiful. So again, this is only because I have to lighten my luggage. I have to do this. So I hope you understand. Here is another thing that could be controversial to some of you, because Frank's Wild Years is coming up this soon, or going out of the luggage this soon. This was the second album I bought after becoming a Tom Waits fan. No, not the second one I bought, but the second one that came out after I became a fan. And I was a little bit underwhelmed, I must admit it. And of course, the two albums it succeeded was, of course, very hard to live up to. And I remember many years later, I was very surprised that it was called the third part of the Frank trilogy, because I never really thought it was hanging to the two other ones, two previous ones, which we will come back to, obviously. This is much more theatrical. Again, it takes too long before some of the songs actually, find themselves. There are too many unnecessary songs on it. Even the last one is a reprise, and it feels like a song you have to put over the end credits of a film. Of course, this is from a theater piece which I've never seen and not too many people have or ever will, but called Frank's Wild Years, which was set up by the Steppenwolf Theater in Chicago. But nevertheless, on this album is the one song, when people ask me, why do you love Tom Waits? This one holds the one because the song, Please Wake Me Up, kind of illustrates it. It starts very, a lot of strange instruments, a little bit of, cacophonical, what's going on with this song. And slowly, a very beautiful melody emerges from the musical sounds, and it's just, and it's, of course, the album is brilliant in many ways, and every album I show you here, I have some favorite of mine on it. Also, this one does, and even more so, you can hear my voice and clapping on it because I was in Paris in 2008, and it's I Shoot the Moon, which is the one they took from the concert I went to. It is live albums can be tricky, rock albums, because it's as a listener you say, hey, he chose the wrong tracks, or the sound isn't as good, or all that sort of stuff. And one thing you can say about this relatively late album, it's from it came out in 2009, yeah, and the sound is really good. I mean, you can what you see here, that Tom's ability to gather a group of musicians who are really, really talented and great is really significant here. But I think the selection could have been more to my liking, and this is what it's all about. It's about what I like, and but I mean, you can really hear the range of Tom's voice here. It's got everything, so it'll be great. Disc number 2, with all these little stories and fun things from the concerts. I'm not assessing this here because I don't really see the point of collecting things that is meant to come in between other songs. So I'll just ignore that. And while we are at the live albums, I'll come to the big time from 1988, which is, of course, it's sort of a soundtrack from the film of the same name, but there are more songs. There are songs in the film which is not on the album, and there are songs on the album which are not in the film, which is great, which is kind of silly. But this was the first CD I ever bought, because when the album came out as an LP and a CD, there were 6 more songs on the CD than on the LP, and I wouldn't go for that shit. So I bought this, even though I didn't have a CD player at the time. The sound quality here is pretty bad, and even dismal in some, for instance, during Ruby's Arms. And it's kind of the best thing about the album is, or not the best thing, but the thing about the album, it kind of shows the difference between how raw and, raw is probably the best expression, how raw Tom could be live compared to his fairly well-produced studio albums. So, but yeah, you have to go if I can only get 12 albums in my luggage. Next one up is also one of his, more theatrical things. It's The Black Rider, which is, of course, a collaboration with also with the author William Burroughs. It's got some of my favorite songs. Also, it's got 2 of the worst songs of his career, which I always have to, I used to always skip them on the. Of course, talking about Gospel Train and Oily Night, which is really hard to get through. And if you really are annoyed with your spouse on a hungover morning, just put those tracks on and everybody will be just hunky-dory. But of course, it's also got some brilliant, and it's, it's also a test sign of that Tom was influenced by the German cabaret style, including what's his name? Kurt Weill, the composer of the time in the 30s, Germany. Okay, we're coming down to. I can only have 10 albums in my luggage, so this one, unfortunately, has to go. Which is kind of stupid since there's such a big volume of songs. It's 3 CDs. And it's mainly, as you may know, songs which he and Kathleen Brennan, his wife, said was songs that accidentally fell behind the stove over the years and now recollected and put together in this triple CD. You can always get them, also get them at vinyl as far as I think now, 3 double vinyls. Anywho, many great songs, but also just a little handful of songs that say, okay, I don't really care about these, but just listen to his version of Sea of Love, which came from the movie at the same time, is great, and Lucinda is fantastic, and it's we're on the Brawlers album. Remember, there's 3 Brawlers, Ballers, and Bastards. I can see from the data I've got from the authorities that I mostly listen to Ballers, which are the more quiet, melodic songs, the second disc in the set. So it's not surprising to me. Next one up came out the same day as Blood Money, as we saw before, and Alice is also music from a theatrical production called Alice, which I haven't seen. It hasn't been set up here in Denmark, but it's what's described as some say it's a more feminine, album than the one from the same day, Blood Money, which was more masculine. I think that's bullshit, but there's some point this is softer and more fun and less cynical. So you can, if you want to, genderize, if that's a word, that it's great. But I mean, I enjoy every song of this one here. Alice, the title track is beautiful. Lost in the Harbor is one of the songs I can actually play on the piano. And it's, yeah. And now, of course, we're down in the top 10, so everyone is just a masterpiece. And really, most of them has been. Mule Variations is my next one, and this is the first time I saw Tom Waits live. Was on the Get Behind the Mule tour. I saw it in Berlin. When was this? It was in the. I guess the concert was in 2000. The album was from 1999, and it takes a little bit too long to really get rolling. I mean, Big in Japan, Low Side the Road, and Hold On, Get Behind the Mule are all good songs, but are all a little bit too long, if you ask me. But apart from that, there's just great. What's He Building is that little song, story in a song without really singing, and Picture in a Frame. It's Pony is one of my all-time favorites as well. I dig what I especially dig here is there's this blues he called the surreal blues, a mix of surreal and rural, and also this bipolar tendency, which Tom and also Kathleen called it. This tendency to tell terrible stories with a beautiful song. It's really also apparent here, for instance, in the song Georgia Lee. I said before that this is a list which kind of tells you how close an album is to my heart, and I mean this one is just Small Change, 1976, isn't it? Wait a minute, where are we? Yeah, 76. Of course, I only bought it after I knew about Tom Waits in 1983. And I immediately just thought that the two, big ballads, Tom Trolbert's Blues and Invitation to the Blues, are some of his greatest work. But in this album, you also hear, he's more he's already experimenting here, with the spoken word, jazz and poetry, and which, and he still has this jazzy, link, and I wish it was in New Orleans, for instance, and it's just a tremendously, what do you call it? And it's an album with such a lot of good ambience. Well, such a particular ambience that always gets me in a special mood, if I can put it like that. Something that I was called up by Danish National Radio when Tom turned 75 last December, and the journalist asked me, if you only have to pick one album you can recommend to our listeners where to start. I got a little, I don't know, it just got to me, maybe what is his latest, I like to say not last, but so far last album, Bad As Me from 2011. I think it's as good as a place to start with listening to Tom than anything, because it kind of points backwards and forwards at the same time without I'm really able to pinpoint which is which. Of course, you could do it in some particular cases on this album, but it's just such a good energy. And considering this guy is over 60 when he made it, it sounds so fresh and full of spunk and energy that I said to the journalist, well, actually let's use this one to recommend for new listeners. And so I did, and I think they played a little bit of Bad As Me, Chicago, and also I think it was Kiss Me they played from the album on the radio. So it kind of, I'm still bringing it if I can get 7 albums with me to this desert island where I'm going. Here's another fun album. And the funny thing about this is that Tom really didn't want this album to be branded at all. It's a soundtrack for the Francis Ford Coppola film One from the Heart, and he was hired to write it because Francis Coppola liked his music, but Tom kind of felt trapped. On one hand, he loved getting an office in Hollywood and be sitting there and writing songs like they did in the old times. But he kind of felt that he was trapped in his own style. Of course, doing this job, he met his future wife and muse and collaborator and everything, Catherine Brennan, and so everything turned out well. But he actually didn't want this album to come out. It did. It was nominated for a Grammy for the best soundtrack. I think it won. I'm not quite sure. Never mind. Another good thing is that I really like the singing style of Crystal Gale on this one, because it kind of shows, which is something I do when I do not a lecture, when I perform with Tom Waits and playing some of his songs on the piano, is to emphasize how great a melody maker Tom Waits is, and it's really it becomes apparent when Crystal Gale sings it, and there's great duets and there are some great songs, and I find myself listening to it quite often. And the same with the next one, which is A Heart Attack and Wine from 1980, which means it came out before, One from the Heart before, but I kind of reckoned that they are both that what I called Tom Waits' Woody Allen Love and Death album. By that I mean Woody Allen's film Love and Death was kind of the link between his early funny ones and his later a bit more serious, more artistic films like Annie Hall and Manhattan and so on. It's the same with this one, and to a certain degree also One from the Heart before, that he is pointing more forward than normally is recognized by critics and listeners alike. Of course, there are some songs on it which Kathleen would call those, what is it? I forgot what's her name. Oh, those ballads, "Saving All My Love from You" and "Ruby's Arms." But there is also there's it's so well produced and it's so much. It's had so much edge to it that I feel he's actually moving forward, which will be seen later on. And so there was emotion in Tom, and it's been going on for years before this, that he had something in him which hadn't quite come out yet. Well, this come, but he was on the way. I might be able to remember because Kathleen said that Tom wrote only two kind of songs, or the Grand Weepers and the Grim Reapers. The Grand Weepers being those, emotional ballads with strings, and the Grim Reapers are, really dismal and dark songs. Of course, I think she said it in a loving way, and there's some kind of truth to it. We're now down to the last four, and it's not controversial in any way, but and again, which is closer to my heart. Something you just can't control. Oh, where is it? Yeah. Blue Valentine here from 1978. It becomes obvious with this album that the lyrics became more, seriously. I mean, more serious things goes on. I mean, there's murder and death, and poor little girls coming in from the countryside and getting brutally murdered or raped or both, and but still in such a tremendously musical and a musically overwhelming setting that it's really smooth. And I, of course, think about $29 and Sweet Little Bullet from a Pretty Blue Gun and Blue Valentines, and of course a Christmas Card from a hooker in Minneapolis. So, and also you can say I was just talking about things that's pointing forward in his career. Here, Red Shoes by the Drugstore is, as far as I can hear, really a track where you can hear what will come in the coming years. Okay, we're down to the second album I ever heard with Tom Waits. It was a night in 1983 with my friend Jimmy. First put one album on, and then the second one on. And the second one he put on was this one. What is it? Oh, come on. Where are you going? The Heart of Saturday Night from 1974. I was 19 at the time, and it was just, it's more, it's more youthful than than Blue Valentine I was talking about before, and the lyrics are more, linked to being that young man is trying to find a hold in life, and every song, I wasn't listening to a lot of jazz at the time and melodic singer-songwriters, and it just felt perfectly. I mean, New Coat of Paint, San Diego Serenade, Fumbling with the Blues. Every track here is just spoke to me, and the three of us who sat in the apartment and listened to the song, we just had to go out on the town afterwards. Okay, 2 ones to go, and you've already guessed, of course, which ones that is. And I, as always, very doubtful which one I would say for the last one to take with me to that desert island. But if I can go to only one, I'm afraid that I will have to take this one out. This one will have to go up from the luggage. And this one was the first album that I heard the same night I just talked about. My friend put on side 2 of the album, so he just put it on without a word, and I just heard that just under the sucker on the vine with the harmonium and the trumpet playing this song. I said, what the hell is that? That cannot be some young man's record. Then afterwards, of course, came Frank's Wild Years with this crazy Hammond organ and the crazy story about Frank burning down his house. And I immediately said, "What the? It went right into my heart, and I just loved it so much." And we heard it over and over again. And then afterwards, when he played "The Heart of Saturday Night," which of course is 10 years older, I was just complete. I knew from that day on, I'm gonna love Tom Waits forever. And and the first new album which came out after that was, of course, Rain Dogs, and it's just one of the best rock albums ever made. And even though I said I do like melodies and I'm a sucker for good songs, the funny thing is that both Swordfish Trombones and Rain Dogs are a little bit less emphasizing the good melody in a song. Of course, there's plenty of them on it, but so it's a little paradoxical that this is my favorite. But it just went right into It was just absolutely marvelous. Every single track here. It's a song where I most often quote a line from one of his songs, and I can, yeah. And since is that it now? So this is the only album I can bring. I cannot bring two. Are you sure? Okay. What? So it's gonna be Rain Dogs. It is. Okay, folks. That's all. I hope you aren't totally pissed with me. And remember, you can pick up this book in a online bookstore somewhere. It has to be a Danish bookstore. And if you have a publishing company somewhere, or you are a literary agent, don't hesitate to give me a holler. Okay, I gotta go see a man about a horse. So catch you on the flip side.